Hi, welcome to this video. Andrew Kim here, still continuing on object-oriented programming, and in this particular video we'll be looking at variables and methods in OOP. And in the previous video we looked at properties and methods, and in this class we're going to build on that in a very short video. And basically in your LMS you found that for each there are two flavors. There are instance and class variables, and there are also instance and class methods, and the only difference is that you use the static method in one and you don't use the static method in the other. But let's just jump right into an example in VS Code. So let's create a class, and we'll call that class class human, just to stay consistent with our previous example. In our class human, we're going to add a constructor human. But before we do that, let's create some variables like the string name, and then the age, and the weight. So far what I'm doing here is all these are instance variables. All these are instance variables, and that means that they belong to an instance of this class. So when you create an object, you'll be able to interact with these particular variables. So they don't explicitly belong to class human, but they are of the class. So they belong to objects particularly, but they don't belong to the class. This will make sense if we now create a class a class variable. So for example, what would be the best class variable? Maybe we say something like some information on the class. Maybe we would say first of all, we said or in the LMS the message is that you use the static keyword to declare a class method or variable. So we're going to have a variable called maybe human info. So let's call it info, and then this info is going to be a string, so we need to have that there. And then we're going to say this is info. Let's put this is info of the class human. So with this static keyword we have created what we call a class variable. It's accessible to all to the class, but these are accessible to the object that we create using the class. So those are variables, so instance and class variables. Now we can maybe try methods. So maybe one method that is particular to humans would be something like walking. So walking, which will just print a message, maybe like print human is walking. So this is what we would call an instance method. Why? Because it doesn't have the static keyword. If we simply added the static keyword, it would automatically become an instance, a class method, but we won't do that for this particular method. We're going to create another one. Something that is something that would make sense would be maybe, although maybe not all all humans walk, but we walk, of course we walk differently, but something that we all do is like we all breathe. So you could have a static method like call it breathing. So static breathing, static void breathing, and that would simply say humans breathe. So basically, so this, because of the static keyword, so this would be a class method. So right now, so far we've created 3 instance variables and 1 class variable. We've created 1 instance method and 1 class method. Now this is now going to play out when we start now accessing the variables themselves. So let's now start with, let's access the instance variables and methods. So there are so 3 properties and one method. So for us to access instance variables, we have to create an instance of the class. So I'll create one quickly. I'll name that object Andrew Kim, and then it will be equal to human. And then now if I type Andrew Kim, now I have access to 1, 2, 3, which are the instance variables 1, 2, 3. You see, you'll realize that info does not appear here when you press, when you enter the dot symbol. Info does not appear because it is not an instance variable, it is a class variable. So right now I have access to walking because it's our instance method, and of course if you run that code, you expect it to say human is walking. Oh, let's pull this up. So human is walking. So that should make sense. So basically what we're doing here is we were accessing the instance variables and the method. So here we've only accessed the method. The variables here, maybe we add another one that is not null. Let's say string, something like skin color, and let's say it's skin color, and then let's set that to all colors are beautiful. So all colors are beautiful. So this is also an instance variable. Why? It doesn't have the static keyword. So if I come here, I can do skin color, and of course if I run that, you will see I haven't saved that. So if you run, that should print, this to the console also, so that it shows. So if I run right now, it says human is walking, all colors are beautiful. So I was just accessing the instance variables and methods. Now for you to access the class variables and methods, you don't need to create an instance. This instantiation, as it is called in the technical terms, it is not necessary. What I just have to do is I just have to call the class, and then I put the dot sign, and then I have now access to the two. So I have the class variable and the class method, and as we have seen, we created this info and breathing, and they're the only ones that appear. Remember the static keyword. So ideally what you take home is that the way to create a class variable or a class method is adding the static keyword. So if I call human.info, and then I print this to the console, and if I call human.breathing, and then I comment these out, if I run, it should appear. So this is info of the class human. I think there was a typo here, and then humans breathe. So basically these are class variables and methods. So if that is clear, drop any questions in the LMS chat for any clarification, but that's the idea. So be sure to practice, be sure to create your own classes and create your own instance variables and you know, instance methods, same as the class variables and the class methods. And that should be good. Thank you for staying.